Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Mortis FM, a Star Wars podcast. I am Grayson, one of your hosts.
I'm Cole, the second host. Grayson, the Acolyte's out! Episode 1 and 2!
The Acolyte episodes 1 and 2, the premiere, dropped last night for us. We watched it together. I'm going to look at that episode's title because I already forgot. First episode was Lost/Found, and episode 2 is Revenge/Justice. And we're going to talk about it. Without further ado, what did you think about the Acolyte episodes 1 and 2?
I'm going to be honest, could be recency bias, but I really didn't have any specific complaints. I just enjoyed myself. I was like, this is real Star Wars right here. I'm having a good time watching this. I don't know if I would go so far as to say like, oh, I'm blown away, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that watching the rest of the season kind of build up into whatever it is that it will do could potentially give me that effect.
Yeah.
But I love the presentation here. It's a real great time. I'm so happy to be in an era outside of the Skywalker saga, and just operating with entirely new characters. Like it's so fresh. It feels so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, initial thoughts without going into summary. I like it a lot.
It is the first, I guess, project that's really not even close to the Skywalker saga. Like, other, like, in terms of shows and movies.
Yeah, it's the first real one that just kind of exists before those events, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you get, like, of course, like, Rogue One, like, one would say, oh, that's not in it. Well, okay, but Vader's in it, and it's right before A New Hope, you know? So, like, it exists outside of... it exists outside of that chain of events.
Right, because even same thing with Book of Boba Fett and like Mando and Ahsoka is like, yeah, they're not in those movies, but like Luke does show up, you know, it's tied to characters that we already know and events that are already happening, but this is like, there's no Empire, no Separatists, although we did get a Trade Federation reference.
There are inklings, and I really like that. I mean, since we're on the topic, I'll just go ahead and bring it up. Like, I love that Leslie, the director, is just very intent on putting in these like, hey, if you're a fan of the prequels and you know just the rest of Star Wars, you can see where it's going.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. Gives me Darth Plagueis vibes, but like less, this is literally about to happen. It's happening right now kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, to second what you said, I mean, I really enjoyed it as well. I will also agree with you, like, nothing that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like peak Star Wars, you know, like, but it's I would say it is above serviceable Star Wars. Like, I really enjoyed it. I think, like you said, to me, it feels like Star Wars, what Star Wars should be, with the cherry on top being that it's not in that era, you know? Like, what we were talking about the entire time as we were watching was the sound effects, right? That was like one of the first things. It's like classic Star Wars sounds from blasters to droids to escape pods, you know, all of that stuff.
Cuffs. And I was like, oh my God, that was in Knights of the Old Republic and Republic Commando, you know? Yeah. And I go crazy for those sound effects, you know?
It's like, that's like, you mentioned the presentation. Like, that's the sort of stuff as well. Another thing that I mean, I gotta just, you and I also acknowledge that I just think, in my opinion, adds so much to Star Wars.
I just think it's neat.
Is the screen transitions, the Microsoft PowerPoint slides, slide, or the clock, or the split, or the other split. Like, you know, that's
a good campy space adventure. You know? Listen, I will give praise all day to the intense seriousness that is Andor and Rogue One. But I'm gonna live it up for, you know, Jedi and like, you know, just little circle transitions and just kind of looking funny and all that. But yes, it exists outside of the Star Wars saga, and yet it reminds us that the Star Wars saga and what makes Star Wars are not mutually exclusive. You can have those really great elements outside of the story that we know, and I really hope that we continue to do this moving forward, because new characters and new stories keeps things interesting. The galaxy is too expansive, far too wide to just be telling stories about the same characters. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I love to see, you know, recurring characters. You know, I'm that guy that's like, oh my god, it's, you know, blank cameo, right?
Yeah.
But those new stories are what make us kind of continue to love Star Wars into the modern era. You know, it's what makes us love Cal. What makes us love Kanan. You know, and it's what made us love the prequel characters in the first place, because, like, in a way, like, that was new. It was still connected, but that was new. And now it's like all new, all fresh stuff, but in a familiarly presented way.
Right.
Because because the transitions and the sound effects and subject material, all that jazz, for sure.
Yeah, like, I mean, one of the biggest things is the Jedi Temple. Just seeing those establishing shots of the Jedi Temple is like, that's so familiar. Right.
And speaking of, like, why don't you take this point, because you pointed this out to me, even though, like, it was like subconscious recognition. The Jedi Temple's kind of dripped out, right?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, we've seen the Jedi Temple pretty often, whether Clone Wars or the prequels and things like that. And yet, like, there's things that I'm like, I asked him, like, is there's like a jail in the Jedi Temple? Like, there's these docking pads surrounding that, like, almost look like they, like, collapse out of the side that, like, hang there. And I'm like, where did all this come from? And I'm like, I guess that's the sign of the times, you know? Yeah,
and it makes me wonder, like, I mean, they're just space cops, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You're obviously a lot more used to the High Republic at this point, because you've read a lot of the source material. That's kind of what they do at this time, right? Like, they go out and they help people and they solve problems, you know, like, that's their thing. So
it's like, I guess it depends on your interpretation of what space cops mean, where Right now, I'll be honest, like, the vibes that we get in these episodes, and we kind of, like, we're not going to go, for context, we're not going to go, like, explicitly through, like, each event play by play like we did with Bad Batch. If you have been with us since Ahsoka, we didn't necessarily do that because these episodes are a lot bigger. Obviously, these are 2 episodes that are in a grand total around an hour or so, and so it would just take a long time, and I think we're just very off the cuff people, so so we're gonna go through, but we'll go off the beaten path as we do. But
mostly tangential.
And that's just our vibe. And if that's why you're here, then get used to, or get.
We love you. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you for listening to our tangents. But yeah, so it's like, in this episode, obviously, it's the whole murder mystery, and so there's a lot of times, like, I mean, it's like multiple times that the Jedi are like, in the name of the Galactic Republic, you're under arrest, you know, and it's like. That's, like, it's very, like, authoritarian kind of vibes that these Jedi are giving off, which is definitely, I would say, antithetical to what the High Republic Jedi are in the books. But it's not, like, straight up like, oh my gosh, the Jedi are so different. It's like, oh, the progression of how they get to where they're at in the prequels is starting to happen.
Yeah, because they're more enforcers now.
Yes.
And then in the prequels, they're just straight up military entities.
Right.
Like,
they
command the army. Right. And I mean, you'll hear, like, Sol and Venestra, I believe, discuss the idea of political enemies. You know, which is just a really great subject to speak about in a monastery. You know, like, really good to know that they're keeping on track with their ideals. You know, worried about the politics.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, in the High Republic books, you know, I've only read 2 and then some handful of comics, so I'm getting more in there in that era, and I love it. But it's in that era, they're really in tune with the Republic in a good way. Like, the Chancellor is all about, you know, bringing in more planets into the Republic and supporting one another. I mean, her saying is, "We are all the Republic." Starlight Beacon is quite literally a beacon of light to help transmissions and intercultural recognition and things like that. It's like this just amazing feat. And now it's kind of like, you know, I literally just finished the book where it's Venestra's first appearance, and she's 16 in that book. And the way she acts is, yes, she's strictured, and she's, you know, definitely more, I would say, serious rather than jokey or anything. So that keeps in line with the way she acts in the show. But this is a good 130 years after the fact. You know, she's a much older, and you can tell, like, I don't want to say she's jaded, but you can tell that she's not as...
She's changed.
Yeah. And that's that's the sign of the times right now. Like, we're getting the gap between the prosperity and the expression and the unification of the High Republic to what we know about the prequels of the dogma and the governmental body of the Jedi. The transition, the bridge is connecting, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, love that.
100%. I think what I'm assuming here, like the general progression from the end of the Sith Wars to Order 66 is the Jedi go from monks to peacekeepers to space cops to enforcers to soldiers, and then they're done.
That is perfectly said. Yes.
Yeah, and that's like I would say that is just the concept of a militarization of like that religion and going into the Republic, and so you can definitely see it here. They're in their enforcer era, soon turning into soldiers. But then at the same time, like you also still, it's still very different. You look at them and like their robes are different and the temple's different, and there's a lot more kind of gravitas around them because they still hold a lot of ideals about who they are and what they're all about. You know, I think like in the prequels, like, yeah, of course the Jedi hold fast to their ideals, but it feels kind of less than. There's a lot less emphasis put on a Jedi. It's more or less like, oh, like, you know, they were sent here by the Republic, yada yada yada. But instead, you know, you look at, you know, my guy Yord in this show, right? And like, just look at like his first appearance, ceremonial robes, right? Like, there's just so much care put into the way that they present themselves. Whereas like in prequel eras, you know, they don't really seem to care about the general public's consensus. It's all just kind of about...
Think about what the Trade Federation says in the beginning of the Phantom Menace. They're like, Jedi, like, we won't survive this, you know? And you're like, what? Like, you know...
what do you mean?
It's like, that's not Jedi. I mean, obviously people create rumors about the Jedi, but now, as you're seeing this show and maybe what they're getting towards, you know, and we see kind of... I mean, I think the earliest in the timeline that we have really seen is kind of those Dooku episodes and Tales of the Jedi, like in terms of a visual medium. And those are times where, they're like, he is specifically Dooku, and even Windu is compliant in this, where they're killing guys that like, and so you're seeing that, right? Like, again, Yord and Jeki and all of them are like, you know, in the name of the Galactic Republic, you're under arrest. And Yord is constantly reaching for his lightsaber, and he's to make a slight Marvel reference, but to modify it, he is the Force's righteous man, you know, like Ultron reference for anybody.
Captain America.
God's righteous man. Yeah.
I can't physically throw up in my mouth. Dude, James Spader's performance as Ultron, it's so good. But
Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely.
That'd be good.
Imagine him as like maybe an Imperial.
I was about to say, any kind of bad guy, he'd crush it, dude.
Yeah, any kind of bad guy. So the presentation here, you get the vibe that, all right, I can see where this is going, but the galaxy's at a very different point right now. You know, you look at the Jedi, you're like, I don't really recognize these guys.
Yeah.
You know? And like, it's like, okay, well, I see the temple and I see the lightsabers and I see, you know, the robes and the Force. And so I'm assuming that these guys are Jedi, but this is not the same order that you see, you know, about 100 years later, right? So things are different. And I like that. I love being in different eras because there's just so many new concepts and subjects to mess around with.
Right.
So
it's they're entering the beginning of the dark spell of the Jedi. And it even sucks because now, like, I am becoming a High Republic fan, and I'm like, dude, the High Republic, like, as a Jedi simp, okay, like that I am, you know, and people, I remember this is super random, but I remember getting into this is actually really cool, and I think is perfectly on brand. I remember getting into an in-universe debate with a Saja on the Galactic Star Cruiser when I went there for those 4 hours. So Sajas are like these people that study the pilgrimage to Jeddah, and they're kind of like they're not Jedi, but they're kind of like Jedi wannabes in a way. They're like
they're like acolytes on the path.
Yeah. They're like, and some of them are force sensitive. They know how to use a lightsaber, and they're kind of they're kind of like the Wilds in a way, a little bit.
Okay.
But I remember getting into a discussion with one of them, and I believe his name was Saja Tycer, Tycer, and we were talking. In universe, which is so nerdy, and he was talking about the dogma of the Jedi and everything, and I was like, well, yes, of course, but if rumors are to be true, that was in a large part to the rise, the secret rise of the Sith, and how they had infiltrated the governmental body. I'm like, when I refer to the Jedi, I refer to hundreds of years ago in the High Republic, before the Empire and the First Order, like, because you got to keep hush because the First Order's on board and everything. Like, those are the Jedi that I speak of, and what I believe the Jedi could potentially be once again. And that's right there. That's kind of the thing, is like true Jedi, which, we get into a debate a lot of times on like what a true Jedi is and everything. We have our personal favorites.
I think there's multiple examples and multiple different ways that can be interpreted.
Right.
It's not an exclusive thing,
But then, like, when you go to the High Republic era, they are, I believe, what you and I share with our perception of what a true Jedi is. They are much more common than they are few. Like, as we see in the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, Right. So you're seeing how they're getting there.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and mention this before I forget about it.
By all means.
Like I had this thought now after watching these 2 episodes. It's very clear to me that the idea that the Jedi are becoming something that they're not is actually a lot more common in the Order than it is in the prequel trilogy. There's a lot more Jedi that, like you see some taking the Barish vow. You see like Soul like questioning, just kind of like, are we really sure that we should be doing this sort of thing? And then Jedi like kind of questioning their motives and like, should I really be acting like this? And so it kind of makes me think, oh, so this is kind of the last vestiges of quote unquote dissent before we go into the prequel era, where all of them are just like, we love the Republic, we love what we're doing here, so like you kind of see like the last bastion of, are we really doing this right? And then it'll probably end with, of course we are, we're gonna be fine. So I think that's really interesting.
Contemporary Skywalker saga is the last one, and obviously it goes without saying, everyone is drawing a lot of comparisons between Soul and Qui-Gon, justifiably so, and I love that because I think Soul is great.
It was Jung Jai Lee.
He's so good.
Really great performance. Honestly, great performances all around, especially Amandla. I really like her performance as both Osha and May.
Which I guess we should go ahead and maybe not, like, I'm not going to go through, like I said, not going to go through plot beat for beat, but we probably should start with the opening, which is on Ueda or whatever, or you said you the man. When the episode first started, obviously the name of the planet comes up and it's UEDA, and we hadn't heard it pronounced, so I just immediately said, you the man. Don't watch things with me, guys. I'm insufferable. It's part of our ritual is to watch things together like this, and it's just when you put us together, people would just hate watching things with us. Unless you've already seen it and you want the commentary. But so basically the opening is May going to this planet, and she finds Carrie-Anne Moss's character Indara, and they fight. Really great fight scene. Let's talk about the fight scene and just fight scenes in general in these episodes.
Choreography,
thumbs up, thumbs down.
Thumbs up, 2 thumbs up actually. The fight choreography is immediately off the charts. They really brought in that real stuff in this show. and I'm happy to see it. Yeah, May challenges Indara to a duel, like face me with all your strength or something along those lines. And the bar, the people at the bar are just like, who the heck is this? You know, there's like
she does that like funny
her
pose at first, and you're just like, everyone's kind of like, okay, weirdo.
Yeah, I actually, now that I think about it, that's just so funny because that's a good blend of the seriousness of the Jedi and the Sith versus like hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because like not everybody is all about the Force. It's a big galaxy.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing as like someone just saying something about their religion and then, you know, they're not in a church and someone looks at them and they're like, what's going on here? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, she's not taken seriously. And then she makes them take her seriously by just roughing everybody up.
Yeah, she starts attacking, basically bringing people in this bar to force Indara's hand, and
yeah, she's me in the Lego Mos Eisley Cantina in Complete Saga, just beating up people to start a fight.
Someone has to make that edit of just like the music playing, and then the music just switching, and all the people like the noise and everyone pulling out their blaster, because I think it plays like the theme when like the Rancor is like or whatever, and everyone's like just fighting, you know.
You just have to add a bunch of Lego death sounds, and then a green screen studs falling everywhere.
Yeah,
and just
as soon as you already know this is a spoiler review. As soon as Indara dies, then immediately the music, everyone just
it's like a 5-second pause, and it's just like
it just cuts back. Dude. Drop a comment in the chat if you want Cole to make that. I'm putting it as his responsibility. I'm just kidding.
I can handle it. I'm just letting y'all know I could do it. So actually, speaking of that fight, Indara, just full on Jedi style, you know. Yeah. Doesn't even take out the lightsaber until the very Force Fu. That's great.
Yeah, that's what people called it with like Ezra when he was like in Ahsoka, where he was kind of going that, and like that's kind of an extension of that, where she's just blocking and pushing people back with the Force and everything. It's sick.
Just kind of, well, it's like it reminds me of an Airbender style, you know, where like they're just kind of like moving around their opponent's attacks, as opposed to just opposition, you know.
Yeah.
Just kind of to disarm and to disorient until eventually she takes out her lightsaber. And I think May says something along the lines of, a Jedi never takes out their lightsaber unless they have the intent to kill.
Yeah, which is really an interesting comment because I'm curious if we're gonna ever kind of I'm sure we will get a backstory on that comment, because that's not entirely true. Sometimes people pull out a lightsaber to defend, you know, you know, as Yoda says, it's for defense, never attack, right?
I was thinking the exact same thing, but also to keep in mind, as I'm assuming everyone's watched the episodes.
Yeah, I mean, sorry guys if you haven't watched it in the 30 minutes we're into this episode.
May has been influenced by Sith teachings, right? So obviously she's gonna go like, "Oh, you're gonna kill me now with your laser sword." Typical of a Jedi who, you know, ruined my life, you know, because obviously we don't know the full extent behind that, but she's on a vendetta. She's there to kill Indara, Sol, Torben, and what's the guy's name? Kelnaka, yeah. So there's a vendetta here. I don't think it's like specific assassinations in order to appease. Like that's a part of it, but she wants revenge.
We obviously get that set up because we know it's those four characters were tied to the past of Osha and May. And by the way, before I forget, you were mentioning how we know she's being taught by a Sith, and the confirmation of, or at least someone who believes in Sith teachings, and that is the fact that she literally mentions part of the Sith code in episode 2 when she's talking to Kamir.
Her and Kamir. And Kamir knows about it too. So I don't think he let's go ahead and say, of course, we're tangential.
Yeah.
We can't help it, guys. We can't. That's what you're here for. We heard that you like tangential anyways. We'll stick with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kamir essentially says, and remember, peace, and May finishes, peace is a lie. I know. So I think he's definitely affiliated with these teachings. Hey, you're not affiliated with me. But yeah, he's not. He's definitely privy to it. Absolutely. He's not like, oh, I'm just her associate.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
But by the way, I just want to go ahead and say, let's just get it. I'm just going to get it out of the way. We're tangential. It's the flow of the discussion. I'm not making excuses anymore. All right. We're just doing it. Mm-hmm. I mentioned to you last night, we talked a little bit and then we were like, all right, we got to stop talking. We got to save it for the episode. I obviously threw out the theory, and it's probably not going to be true, but I have also seen that other people have thought of this theory as well. But right before I went to bed, I got on social media and I immediately saw a guy guessing the same thing, that people think Kamir might be the Sith Lord the entire time. That like he's kind of this drunk informant type character. And you even, you brought up the question, like, are they on the same planet? Because just at the end of the first episode, we see the Sith ignites his saber. Really cool voice modulator. I don't even have it was a banger, like, paragraph, whatever. Like classic Sith stuff,
Essentially ending in the acolyte kills the dream. Which is just because what I'm assuming is that he's getting across that if it is known that an acolyte kills a Jedi without a weapon, then suddenly, their power is just decimated, right? Yeah. And to be honest, it kind of harkens to a couple Legends explanations about Palpatine and actually how he didn't like lightsabers. Yeah. And he instead used it to mock the Jedi as opposed to like him actually liking it. He was like, I'm going to use it because I can do what you do, but better. So I'm wondering if this mysterious Sith also ascribes to that notion. Wouldn't be surprised, as he's potentially could be Palpatine's like Sith great-grandpa.
Sith grandpappy.
Yeah, Sith grandpappy. So you brought up this theory that Kamir. Yeah. Come here. All right, fine. that Kamir could be this Sith, and I remember like when you said that, I was like, oh. Maybe. Yeah. I mean,
it's one of those things, but it also feels like it would be too simple, where it's like,
but I would go like, I said, well, it could be. I mean, that's a lot like Palpatine hiding in plain sight, and of course he would want to keep an eye on his presumed apprentice. And actually, speaking of, I'm assuming that this guy is the apprentice. I don't think he's the master. But which was destroyed, the master of the apprentice. And you also brought up the notion that brief small spoilers for the Darth Plagueis book in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Darth Plagueis' master, had multiple apprentices, multiple prospects to be his like presumed successor. So maybe this guy is like trying to either undermine his master or find a way to impress them.
Or maybe this is his master's idea and he's like, it is your task to go find an acolyte. Like, we know, again, in continuity with the Plagueis book, but I would not put it past what we are in the timeline now in canon, that we had a debate a lot about this in our Tales from the Archives episodes of like, what the Sith will do to be able to achieve their goal, right? And it's like, Plagueis and Palpatine and Tenebrous and Venomous, all of those guys kind of like, they were like, oh, the Sith is like these things about the Sith, but also I'm going to do little things differently, where like,
that's just Sith nature, man.
Right. Where they're like, well, we have a code, but we also break the code, and it's, like the rules are meant to be broken sort of thing. And so
the code is that there is no code.
Exactly. Like they have, like, it's like this weird paradox. And so, I would not be surprised if when it comes to this Sith that we do not know their name, even if they are a Sith Lord, like, and who's to say that they're not an acolyte, right? Like, what if they're Like, what if it's, I mean, you could get real deep with it, man. I mean, when you think about Maul in Plagueis, like, Maul didn't even know Plagueis was alive, dude.
Yeah,
like,
Maul was a Sith assassin, you know? So, I mean, maybe this guy could be the same. Maybe this is like this could be a Maul situation or something like he's trying to prove himself. Like, I could do this. Like, he could be the apprentice to the apprentice, right? Or he, you know, who knows? He might not even be a Sith at all. Because the thing about the Sith mystery is that you have no idea where they are or what they're doing.
So elusive.
Yeah, like, and I mean, that's what made it work. And obviously somehow this mystery will remain unsolved until it is too late. So I'm wondering how this will be resolved. Like, is everybody just gonna die?
That's what everybody kind of thinks, and it's like, I think that also would be too simple. But I mean, I guess that now transitions to beg the question of, you know, May is going on these murders. She ends up throughout these episodes, we find that she has a twin, Osha gets framed, but she ends up getting cleared, which I'm kind of glad that those got cleared up so fast, because now it begs the real mystery that we all want to know of, like, okay, why is May doing this? And who is she working for? Because we all knew, like, okay, it's twins, and the one W that Yord got was that he followed May followed Osha when Osha was about to get framed for May killing Torben, even though Torben killed himself, sort of thing. She was about
to be framed for the death of Torben.
Right.
All of the setup was there. Like, you heard me while the scene was playing. I was like, Osha, what are you doing? Because she goes right up to the body and she's like, oh, interesting murder weapon, you know? And I'm like, oh my God, Yord is following her. She's gonna get caught. Like, the scene was entirely intentionally set up for Yord to go, oh, you are the killer, arrest her. But the show proved to us that it's not gonna waste time, and I'm so glad for that. We got places to be. We only got a certain amount of episodes. And so that is when Yord turned from what you said, an op, into you know, a real one, right?
Yeah, I was like, okay. I was like, thank you, Yord. Like, we that cleared that up real fast, because like now that I said, like, we are now past the whole, like, okay, the Jedi know it ain't Osha, right?
Yeah.
They know it's May. They even, by the end of the second episode, they find May. Like, they get her cornered before she escapes, and it's like, so now what we kind of thought was the mystery is now quickly dissipated, and now we're kind of onto the main meat of the mystery, and that we still have 6 more episodes for that, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah. I mean, it turned from, oh, this isn't like a one-off incident. This is something that's planned, and she's working for somebody. Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, it just keeps getting deeper, and that's how mysteries go. And I think that you don't see a lot of Star Wars based mysteries, so it's very I like it a lot. I really appreciate Yord for not being vindictive and just going like, yeah, I saw the whole thing, she's innocent. You know, he's dogmatic, but I don't think he's not, you know, an asshole, right?
This is super random as well. I want to bring this up because you were talking about we don't see a lot of mysteries in Star Wars. And last night we were watching, and you were like, this is giving me Attack of the Clones vibes in a weird way, and I don't know how to explain it. You remember that?
There's the explanation. What a connection there. Wow.
And it's like, that's the only real movie that has that sort of mystery of the unraveling of what's happening, the assassination of Padme, who created the clones, who's behind it, Jango, Dooku, everything. And yes, there's some holes in that mystery, but there's a lot of similarities to that now, where it's like,
because you love watching Obi-Wan go on the mystery, you know, to uncover the truth, and then it just begs more and more questions, which aren't resolved by the end of that movie. Like you just don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also, how much of that was resolved in Plagueis with Plagueis literally orchestrating. And him and Palpatine setting up Sifo Dyas, planting that idea in his mind, and then connecting it to Dooku. I'm like, that's super cool. Again, obviously Legends, although it canon until proven otherwise.
Exactly.
But like the same, that's that same just kind of like mystery. And now that I think, these first 2 episodes get past the whole, okay, Osha and May are twins. There's some trauma. May allegedly, maybe we should talk about this, I guess, is May. People did not know that May was even a person, right? They didn't know that Osha had a twin. And we know that Osha was formerly a Jedi. She trained as a Padawan, was brought in quite late, around kind of similar to Anakin's age. She was around 8.
8 years old.
Yeah. Which is, this is super off topic, by the way, but did you see the video of Amandla getting that video from Hayden?
Yeah.
That's like,
that was so sweet. I loved how she keeps replaying him say Amandla.
Yeah.
And she was like, I would do that too. Totally in her position.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it actually kind of begs a question that I haven't talked to you about yet. So, what you were going to say is that seemingly May killed Osha and May's entire family, like their entire clan, their entire village, burned it down. But May has a vendetta against these 4 Jedi that were supposedly there. So in this instance, why doesn't Osha? Wouldn't May feel the same way if they had the same knowledge of events? And so there's 2 things I'm thinking here. Either Osha was lied to, or May was lied to. So either May didn't do it, or like I don't know.
Both.
It could be both. Yeah, it could be both because clearly there is some guilt there. Torben kills himself after being in the bearish vow in deep meditative state, assumedly for over a decade, right? Not speaking to anyone for 10 years, only breaking his silence when May shows up and he takes the serum. And he says he says like something along the lines of like, forgive us, we thought we were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So what did they do? What was the right thing? Which, I had my theory for that you and I spoke about. But as of right now, I think that is like later episode knowledge, potentially. So I'm not going to break the ground on that, but we have a couple ideas as to why that might have happened.
Yeah, I'll present the facts. I won't get into the little small shots because I know these trailers are bad about things. But like, we know one of the main cast members plays a character named Mother Anasea, and Osha's last name is Anasea. So we know she is in some relation to the mother of these witches, And we've also seen in pretty obvious establishing shot to the flashback that Indara, Sol, Torben, and Kelnaka, much younger, are on this planet, presumably when Sol takes in Osha. Yeah. So the question is, what did happen? We've seen there's some couple little shots. I'm not going to get into it because I think this is something that I think it'll be fun to kind of see progress naturally. And we might even get that next week. We might even get some flashbacks as soon as next week or the week after. But
I guess we could say like the posited theory without saying any shots, of course.
Yeah.
Is that, just in case, 5 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, is that May and Osha are from a Sith cult. Like either worshiping the dark side or worshiping the Sith. And so maybe these group of 4 Jedi were like, it's a Sith cult, must exterminate, and when they took Osha
Jedi
in,
wipe them out.
Yeah, and maybe when they took Osha in, they were like, your sister, nasty stuff. Can't believe she did that, So that could be something. Honestly, have no idea. But it could also be May who was brainwashed. You really don't know.
Because May is dead set on this happening. I mean, we get these little teasers and flashbacks, not teasers, but these kind of like, you said you're like, when you're Force sensitive, you're just begging for tripping balls,
But like, just constantly seeing stuff like,
it's their dreams and echoes and all kinds of stuff. and she sees like a younger version of May, kind of confirming that May is alive because Osha thought May was dead this whole time.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm gonna kill them all. Like, which I thought it was so funny when we were watching the episodes. You were like, May, you could just tell Soul that you just like saw her in a dream, being like, I killed them all.
or Osha, because like Soul was like, you know, like I don't know how like it was all like back and forth. And I thought to myself, like, oh shit, you could just tell him that, oh yeah, I had a dream where I saw May, and I was like, did you do it? And she said, yeah. So,
yeah,
I mean,
she literally went, did you kill them all? Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know, but at the same time, that could be just like a subconscious projection too, because we still don't really know if May did kill them all. Because if that is true, why would, like, what would the Jedi be so regretful of? What would Torben, like, where would that regret come from, right? So yeah, honestly don't know. Man, what if May did kill them all, but the Jedi killed May? Because it like killed, right? Because Soul 100% was like, May's dead. Like, he was like, there's no way she's alive.
Yeah.
So what if they did something to just that made them think, okay, we killed her, and we'll take her sister. We'll say that, you know, May did all of it. You know, also managed to die, right? And then she ends up being rescued by this Sith. There's a lot of things here. I honestly have no idea.
You think about the Sith and you know their ways. Like, if there was, say, this is something that, you know, Plagueis investigates down the line. You know, if this happens, like, what if this user uses the dark side of the Force to bring them back? And we see these weird
keep the ones he cared about from dying.
I mean, that's it. Obviously, like, you know, the Sith pass on from each generation.
Yeah.
But we all,
and
you
knowledge
know, like,
is lost, as we know.
Right. So it's like maybe there's a kind of a little bit of a gap there, but this cult is so interesting because we know they're not Night Sisters, you know, which is good, because I think that would be like, no offense to the Night Sisters, but I need some dialing back on the Night Sister content. Like, if there was Night Sisters again in the Acolyte, it'd be like, all right, we're doing a little too much with the Night Sisters, you know. But
I think it's cool, but again, it becomes that cameo thing where, like, it makes the galaxy feel small.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes sense. Like, there's naturally going to be, in this weird, fantastical, wacky world. Shout out Cole's cat, Taz. Baby in the background video.
Taz doing a big stretch over there. She's had such a tough day laying in bed for over 10 hours.
It's a tough life being a cat.
I know. Yeah. But
but yeah, they get these black eyes, which we see May as little May when she's talking to Osha, her eyes become like fully black, and we see in the trailer, like, these witches or whatever they are, their eyes do the same thing. And you're like, what is that? Like, what, like, is this something to do with the Force? Is this some alchemy thing? Like, I don't know. I'm glad that we don't, I love this week to week stuff with these shorter episodes, because it's like, it brings me right back to Ahsoka, where obviously we just was a great period for us, where we just week to week, we're like, you know, what is Balin doing, whatever. And now it's like,
well, Bad Batch too. You know?
Even Bad Batch, you know, and obviously some of those things didn't completely pay off, but we still enjoyed it. But this is like, you know, it's 8 episodes, like, it'll be done in a couple weeks, like, you know, just seeing, and obviously much bigger presentation, not to knock the animation, but this is, you know, live action in a different period. So these teases. So, okay, one thing I want to talk about, the end of episode 2. We get the tease, the stinger, however you want to call it, of Kelnaka. He's out in hiding as well, so it gives the assumption that, like, it's so here's the thing that I want to talk about. Torben is hanging out in this temple taking the Barish vow. Okay. Kelnaka is out in the woods on a crashed ship living by himself. All right.
Maybe he quit. I mean,
yeah, like, he's not wearing his Jedi garb or anything. And then Indara is on a backwater bar. You know, she's in her Jedi robes, but she's not in the gold Jedi robes. She's in like more kind of white style robes that are more just kind of simple tunic. They're all just like, we don't really know why Indara was just hanging out there, you know?
Yeah, she contacted someone saying that she had a Force user, you know, like a violent Force user or something like that. So, like, I'm assuming she was still a part of the Order, but Torben has taken the vow.
Who was she talking to?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that was just like she just, command, I've, you know.
Yeah.
I gotta, you know.
Buzz Lightyear.
So, yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's actually, now that you think about it, it's 4 different stages as we can observe. Soul's hanging out at the temple, acting like, you know, probably nothing happened. Indara is making some space, but she's still a part of it. Torben's taken the vow. He's in the Order, but, you know, is far away removed from, in the colonies. And Kelnaka, as far as we know, is out of the game. You know, he's retired from the Force. So they're all kind of he's retired from the Force. That's a double entendre.
And you know what? And there's also another level to this.
Yeah,
Osha is not even part of the Order at all. We don't know why she left the Order.
Yeah, she's a mechneck. She's called, like where she does dangerous stuff that's meant for astromechs, you know, which, you know, gets high pay, you know, high risk, high reward kind of thing.
Direct reference to the astromech units in Phantom Menace going out on the ship to repair. That's literally what she does. Is she because they even say like, oh, aren't R2 units supposed to do that? You know?
Yeah, and she's like, well, actually, all astromechs can, but you know, I like that she mentions R2 units, which further solidifies that R2 is an old model.
What is the furthest we see with R units? R8, right?
I think, or is it R9? I don't know.
I don't remember. I think there's there's R7 and I think there's an R8. I don't know. I don't think it goes higher than 10, but yeah, R2 is an old one.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, there's different stages of maybe grief or regret, acting like it didn't happen, or bearing it down, grieving, mourning, and running away from it, right? So they did something that they vehemently regret. As far as we know, Soul doesn't seem to, like, he seems like fully into this bit, like whatever it is that they're doing. Like either he doesn't know about it, or he's fully okay with what happened, or is just like pretending it didn't happen, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, whether we like it or not, or, you know, as far as we know, he was a part of it. So I can't say. I really can't say. But he seemed so intent on like, no, May's dead. Because Jackie, I think her name is, right? Who's also, she's great too, which is Soul's new Padawan, I suppose. She's like, could it be possible that her twin sister? And he's like, no, May is dead. You know? Yeah. Like, how does he know that for sure?
One thing that's also an interesting piece of the puzzle is in the very beginning when Indara and May are fighting, she pulls off her mask and does recognize May, but the question is she recognizing her as Osha or recognizing her as May? It's never cleared up.
Yeah, I think she just said like, it's you know?
Yeah,
or something
right.
Like
and it's
that.
like, it's like, so does Indara? No, because it seemed like nobody knew about May, right? Now we don't know about Torben and Kelnaka. Like, Torben seemed to know who May was, I guess. He seemed to be like, you know, forgive us.
Immediately recognized. Venestra did not even know Osha had a twin.
Yeah.
So what I'm assuming is like these 4, you know, this thing happened. They took Osha back and they were like, hey, we saved this kid, you know? And it didn't even mention the twin thing. So why wouldn't they mention the twin thing unless they had something that they needed to hide? I think that they either attempted to kill her, or they did kill her. Like, why would they hide it? You know, unless it was intentional. You know,
there's just man. I've got a million things like running through my mind right now, dude. Yeah, I don't know, like, because it begs the, like, you know, a big theory was like, okay, either they're all gonna die, which is like the simple thing, that everybody thinks of.
Don't worry, they're all gonna die, but it'll be like over 100 years later.
Yeah. Or the other thing was like, do the Jedi cover up what happened? And if your theory is right, like, it's maybe whatever happened was covered up, and now this is another thing that has to be covered up, you know?
It's gonna be covered up again and ignored. And so, well, the seeds are there. Things have already been covered up.
Do we know how many years prior whatever happened with May and Osha is before that? Was it 10 years because of what, or over slightly over 10 years? Because if she's 8, I don't know how old May and Osha are now. I assume 18 or above.
It's 16 years before the current events.
Oh, okay. So then May and Osha are like 24.
They at least I could be wrong, but they said 16 years ago, you know.
Okay.
So many times that I'm pretty sure that is it, right? So yeah. they should be 24.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And
to
how
me.
long is do you remember how long Osha has been out of the order?
5 years?
Something like that. Because she says
5
like
years?
she knows Yord, and he's like, I made Knight 2 years ago. So it's over that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and he's letting everybody know.
So that's interesting because that timeline, if it's been 5 years, that timeline would roughly add up to whenever 16. Yeah, that would be really close to when Torben took the Bearish vow. Because if it's been 10 years or slightly over that, you know, unless unless they're just talking about when the events happened, like maybe. I wonder if him taking the Bearish vow has to also tie with Osha leaving the order. Maybe not. Maybe it's just directly parallel to whatever events happened, but maybe there's a little bit of a gap there.
Yeah. I really don't know. Another thing about Torben, that man's got a terrible scar over his left eye.
Yeah, which like
that's bad. I don't know what happened with that, but
yeah, I mean, we see a little bit in the trailers. I'm not going to say what, but it does give credence to whatever happened with the witches and with the Jedi was bad. And there was a little bit, we'll just say a little bit of infighting. And so whatever happened with Torben, I told you about it last night, but it's okay. I won't say it now unless you really want me to. I could do a countdown.
I'm good. I honestly try to forget about what I see in the trailers. Like I can't help myself but watch the trailers, but then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna forget about this relevancy to the plot.
Yeah.
You know, because then you can kind of guess like, oh, I haven't seen this scene yet, you know, kind of thing.
So with the flashbacks that were obviously or this what flashback. My question is directly tied to my the plural form. Do you think it will be more than one flashback, or do you think it will be one big flashback? Like, and do you also an additional layer to this question is, do you think it'll be a Last Jedi situation where it'll be one person telling the perspective, another person telling, and then the truth? You know,
I was literally gonna suggest that. I was like, I think it might be like kind of Last Jedi-ish, where we get Osha's perspective and then you get May's perspective. And May's perspective would be neat because then you could potentially see the presumed apprentice rescuing her, you know?
Yeah.
And like it would give me like Star Wars Vision Season 2 vibes.
I was about to say it.
Yeah, look at this guy. We're on the same page.
Whatever that episode was with the girl Journey. Not Journey to the Dark
Screecher's
Head,
Reach.
Screecher's Reach. Yeah.
Yeah. And like
painting the Sith as a hero, or
he's just like this savior, you know, like come little one, you know, there's much to learn, right?
Yeah.
Which could be, honestly, if I were directing it, I would do like a shot for shot parallel of like Soul rescuing Osha and then the apprentice rescuing May.
That would be so good, dude.
I would do that. Like maybe a little cliche, but I mean that's what Star Wars is all about, right? Just those
I would love it if it was like literally the same
tropes. Yeah,
like the same establishing shot, and then it's like just like on par with the music. It's hard cutting to the exact same shot, but of Soul and May, you know, and then that being kind of like. Imagine if that was like the end of the show. Like we get all of the picture painted, you know, and then like those are the last two, and it's like all the pieces of the puzzle have connected, you know, like without getting into spoilers for other properties. Like one of my favorite video games that I have proclaimed over over the show is The Last of Us Part 2, and that is a game that does flashbacks so beautifully, where it is not till the very end of the game that you get the full story. And when it does, you're like, oh my god, dude! Like,
I gotta play those games.
Yeah, dude, it's so good, bro.
I've got a lot on my list, to be honest.
Same here. I'm about to, like I told you earlier, I'm about to enter my samurai phase, and so Soul is directly inspiring that. Also, shout out to no longer Diamond Figs, but Will of the Force. He is. He's been super into the whole samurai thing as well. Soul, he's number one soul simp out there. If there's a Grievous simp, it's Cole. If there's a soul simp, it's Will. If there's a Kanan simp, this guy. Yeah. We've basically covered a lot of the events that have happened in the episodes.
Kind of like brass tacks. Like this is what happens pretty much.
Is there anything that, in terms of more about the presentation or theories or plot, that you have in mind?
I really like the variants of the aliens.
A lot of really cool aliens, man.
Yeah, lots of cool aliens and like weird stuff going on. Like when Osha was being taken back to Coruscant, like she's on this prison transport ship, fully controlled by droids, like seat droids, really cool. Which is kind of cool. Like they turn into seats. I don't know. I love droids. Like as soon as we saw one of them, I was like, that's a homie right there. Because I'm all about droids. But you see in this like in the other cells, there's all of these different kinds of species. You see a cell cath back at the temple, I think, which is nice. I want to say that might be the first live action cell cath that we've seen, which could be a big dub. And then
also shout out Light of the Jedi, which also acknowledges that Kolto is a thing.
Exactly.
And also, I just got to say, you mentioned Sith Wars earlier with your parallel of like monks to peacekeepers, whatever. That the Sith Wars are mentioned a lot in the High Republic stuff. So
I'm just so glad
they're setting up something. And listen, we're in the Acolyte. I would be hard pressed to not believe that some sort of, I mean, Leslie Helen has said it herself. She literally said EU characters will be in this.
I would love like a full Sith-based episode. Like have like one episode end in a cliffhanger, and then the next is just full focus on this apprentice and May, or better yet, the apprentice and his master. You know, and lots. There's just so much potential there. And I gotta know immediately, like, oh, Darth Revan, please, just tell me.
Even if it was just going through like different. Even if it wasn't physically seeing him, but talking about like a Sith proverb that Revan introduced, whether it was like Vitiate or Revan, Malgus. I mean, imagine if we just got like the boxes ticked,
That's what I was literally about to say that. Like, what if like in a teaching scene, like this master just lists off the accolades of the most powerful Sith of the ages, like. From Nihilus you've learned this, from Revan you've learned this, Malgus taught you this, it's all just kind of, well, thanks for bringing it into light for me,
It's if they do that, that is just, to me, that I'm like, that is confirmation and setup that inevitably they will be brought into something. There has been rumors that Knights of the Old Republic will be made into a television show. I'm more partial to a trilogy of movies, but hey, I'll take what I can get. All right.
I mean, if the show's good, I'm here for it. Just make it good, you know what I'm saying?
And above all, like you mentioned, the aliens, and we've mentioned the sound design and the presentation, everything. You can just tell that Star Wars fans made this show.
Yes. I think I said this while we were watching the show, that I was like, this was made with care. Like, people who made this love Star Wars. It's so comfortably Star Wars to watch. You feel like you're right back in it, but in a new place, right?
Yeah.
There's you feel right at home even in a new era that you're unfamiliar with.
Yeah. And we were, even as we were watching the episode, which just gets my creative juices flowing is we've been talking a lot about Edge of the Empire. I'm literally GMing a session in less than 2 hours. And we were talking as we were going through the episode and being like, you're like, oh, she got a failure, but with like advantage right there, or whatever. Like,
because there was just so many moments of task failed successfully kind of thing,
right? Which is just that's Star Wars, man. Like, I love that kind of. She awakens from her slow. Oh, maybe not.
No, she did like a big arm stretch. She's like,
she's like, help me. Oh, she's so cute. She's my best friend, by the way. Just letting y'all know. And this is, I think, the content you guys came here for is Cole's cat.
Say hi to Taz if you want Taz to be our third host.
I'll just start. We'll just get like a high quality picture of Taz, and I'll just print out stickers to be like, oh, here's our podcast stickers, and also here's Cole's cat.
She's the Mortis FM mascot. She's a
Taz of Mortis FM.
She's an Earth cat, not a Loth cat, an Earth cat.
Yep. Yeah. Terran cat. But yeah, those moments of task failed successfully sort of thing. Like, I laughed so hard when she might need to.
She's ready. When she meows, I just respond back to her plainly. Like, she'll say something like she'll meow and I'll just go, that's crazy. Oh my god. And like when actually I did this today, I was right before we were about to start the episode. She jumped on my bed and she was like, and I was like, who taught you that vocabulary, ma'am? Like, so like, I just talking to him in a plain voice is just, I don't know. I get a real kick out of it.
That's so funny. But yeah, I was gonna say and I'm keeping that in for cat enjoyers around the world. I don't care. Yeah. I'm like, people want more of our discussions, so I'm leaving them in there. But I was gonna say that, like, there was just like the moment when the crazy prisoner guy who had like the parasite over his mouth, and she chose that moment to do the right thing and let him free, and then immediately he just dashes into the pot and dips, and you're like, bro, that is rough. Like, that is just, and that's great.
Okay, but here's the thing, that is like a perfect, let's say like the Old Republic MMO moment. It didn't pay off immediately, but it did later, because he told Soul, she saved my life, you know? After Soul did force chill the F out.
And he literally, like you pointed out in the background, he was just like cured his insanity.
It's like with Obi-Wan and Elon Sleazeback Anno, like the mind trick, like, did he just cure his insanity? Because he's like, I'm fine, I'm good, guys. I'm out of here, you know. I'm
gonna go get an honest living, you know.
And he literally just said, like, calm your mind and tell me the truth. And he's just like, yeah, she saved my life.
Soul is great, dude. When he's like, you can tell that a lot of the Jedi, like, are getting more into their their heads, because even when he fights May, another great fight scene, that is such a banger fight scene. It's like when he holds her in place with the Force and then reaches into her mind, you know. I'm like, Soul, you're great, and I'm worried for you.
It's going to be a really bad wake-up call if Soul being kind is like a red herring. Like, what if he's burying all of his guilt in good deeds, you know? And it's
that makes sense too, because what he says to May is like, you know, oh, it's a lesson you tried to teach to me a long time ago, where he's like made peace with it. And what if he's like buried it down, but he's the culprit, he's the one that's done oh my god, no. I don't like how much sense that makes.
That could be a terrible wake-up call when it's revealed that, like, it's his fault, you know.
Oh, Will, if you're listening right now, I'm sorry. I think you're right. I mean, listen, we could be proven wrong. We love to speculate.
I just love to be right.
That makes too much sense, dude. Like,
man, that's oh, dude, that's really gonna break my heart too, because I mean, man, no wonder he feels so, like, strongly in terms of the protection of Osha, because he feels bad, you know? Like
it's his way of coping.
Maybe trying to do right by May by taking care of her sister, trying to do right by Osha by helping her, you know? Like,
it also, I mean, it makes perfect sense with, again, you mentioned several times of just how assertive he is about May being dead. Like, she's dead.
May's dead. Like
he knows, like almost like he was there, right?
Almost like he's convinced himself to bury the guilt.
I don't like that, man, but I like it. But I don't like it.
Yeah, I like it. I hate it, you know. Man, oh dude, how would Yord take that? Really? How would Yord take that?
Think into the subtext as well of when Leslie Headland talked about when she was trying to cast Soul. That actor was kind of put, I don't want to say put on the map, but really blew up because of Squid Game, a show that I have not watched, but I know the context of. And in that, it's a lot of skullduggery, backstabbing, you know, that's the nature. It's like you do whatever you can to get to the top. And when she says directly in interviews, like, when Squid Game was coming out, it was like, that's Soul. And that's the thing, is these people are trying to survive, but they will do bad things. And that just fits way too in line with that theory to me.
Yeah, because there's no way that he doesn't know, right? I think it's largely on him. Yeah. Oh my God.
It makes sense because of the way the other Jedi act, where, like, let's say Indara did know it was May, right? Say she recognized it was May. Torben recognized it was May. But nobody else knows other than those four. I mean, presumably Kelnaka will know.
I'm just now realizing what stage of grief Soul is out of these four. Denial.
Yeah.
He doesn't, like, he's in denial about this. What if he's just been bearing it deep down all the time and
16 years
and trying to atone for it with good deeds, because he is so intent on doing the right thing. He says he even to May, or not to May, to Osha. Sorry, I keep doing that where I mix them up. It's only natural because May was what we knew her name was to be for a while, and Osha is more of a recent development. But like when they have that conversation on the ship before they leave that first planet or whatever, that snowy planet, he's like, maybe I wasn't a good teacher, you know? Maybe that was a big reason why he wasn't a good teacher, is because he couldn't get past no matter what. Like, what he tells to May of, like, oh, you got to get past this or whatever, maybe that's not even to her. Maybe that's to himself, man. I mean, like, at this point, like, I'm maybe like 70% of, like, I'd say 85%. Like, he's a good guy, you know? Yeah. And so...
good people do bad things.
Right. So, like... yes, he's good now, but is it enough to be like an apology for hiding the secret, for committing whatever act this is? Because, I mean, imagine when Osha finds out what the heck is, I mean, at this point we're operating under the pretense that, like, this is legit, this is what happened.
Yeah, because we could just be totally wrong.
Yeah, it could be totally wrong, like, and it's revealed that Soul literally just doesn't know Jack.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking, like, what if I'm just gonna call him the apprentice, because that's what we're assuming. The apprentice drops this bomb, you know, like, he's the one that manipulates the scene. He brings the truth to light with Soul, Osha there, you know, and then Osha, I mean, like, Soul, in his moral compass, you know, won't deny that anymore once it's brought to light, you know. So, yeah, there's obviously a lot of speculation here. Mortis FM, Speculation Central. But
this is where we shine, guys. Our
unhinged,
unprompted theories.
Yeah, I think as long as we don't let it get to us through disappointment if it doesn't happen, it exponentially increases the enjoyment of the show, is to think what's going to happen next week, you know? So, yeah. You have anything else to say about these two episodes, man?
All I've got left is that I am excited. Yeah. I have enjoyed it thus far. I am, as a lightsaber simp, even though I think the hilts are a little chunky, those sound fonts be banging. I cannot wait for those, to put those on my lightsaber, just my random lightsabers. Yeah, man. I know this is a little bit shorter than we anticipated, but honestly, like, that's really all I got. I think the discussions will ramp up further and further as we go on. I'm very excited. Yeah, that's all I got, man. And if I forget anything, I'll write it down and I'll mention it next week. Okay.
Oh my god, dude.
I think they're cooking, man. I think they're cooking.
I'm just thinking, I mean, what if it is just so much worse than we think it is? Like, Soul. What if Soul killed her family? You know? Because it was a Sith cult.
Sith worshippers.
Needed to be extinguished for
it's
for
like,
the light of the Jedi. Yeah, literally. Enforcers. You know? They're not above
I mean, that
this.
was the pitch for the show, right? Is like, this is the beginning of the fall, right? The slow trickling descent. And that would be a really big catalyst to start it off, is to be like, we have been in this era of unprecedented peace and justice and light, and then we find a Sith cult, and these 4 Jedi, specifically wrangled by Soul, they're like, oh well, we can't let this we cannot let this peace be broken. We have to wipe them all out. These are
how is the peace perpetuated? By force. There's no chance for the Sith to come back if we pull them out root and stem. Anytime you find any like vestiges of dark side, you know, wipe them out, all of them, you know, because they're Sith. They worship our natural enemy. There's no reason to feel above that. Like, take them out, you know. This is for the good of the galaxy, for our peace. We thought we were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So I think with that, that's probably where we'll wrap up the discussion on this here. But I'm very excited. Can't wait to see what happens next. The Acolyte, good show. So Grayson, on to our next segment. Welcome back after the break.
I almost forgot, guys. Got too excited talking about Cole's banger theory.
we will be doing the chat pack for the audio listeners. One of my favorite segments.
Wow.
Is it a loaded question?
It's just, this is gonna get interesting. If you had to take down a crate dragon, who in the real world would you ask to help? I'm gonna assume it's like one person. I'm just gonna assume one person. I'll be honest. You gotta choose some like world leader or something.
I was gonna say that
power.
I'm just gonna hire Kim Jong-un because like. According to him, like they got nukes up the wazoo, you know, and just nuke a crate dragon. You're not gonna get the pearl, unfortunately, because it's probably be obliterated. But
so sad. Yeah. I mean, that's the simple answer, right? Is, you know, you gotta plead and beg to someone with a lot of military power. I mean, and you'll be fine. I mean, if you know, if Din and the Moss, whatever, like now Freetown and Cobb Vanth, if they could do it, you know.
Why can't Kim Jong-un, you know? If they could do it, Kim's got it. Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's make it interesting, okay? Let's take away, for the fun of it, let's take away the world leader thing, all right? No like powerful beings.
Yeah.
Just someone you... Maybe not someone you know, but just someone. Like,
you know, that's a really good question.
It's just like, I feel like someone on Twitter would be like my buddy Carl, like, you know, just like, I don't know.
On what non-world leader would be able to take out a crate dragon? Just the two of you.
Yep, just me and or you and that person.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go off on the assumption here that the resources come with the person. So with me, you're going to get a floral t-shirt and a Gatorade.
Some nice shoes and maybe some slacks. You know?
A Kindle, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll have that, and then with so who's got the chops? Tom Cruise, maybe. He could probably pull it off.
Tom Cruise, yeah. I was gonna say, like, what kind of people? Nuts. I mean, Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris. Yeah. Even in his old age, like one last ride, right?
Harrison Ford, that man can't die. He's died. He's gotten so many plane crashes, dude.
Yeah. Clint Eastwood. He's, old dog still got some tricks, right?
Vin Diesel. Ride or die.
Mr. T. Sure, why not? Yeah, I'd get Mr. T on there. If MF Doom, rest in peace, was still around, I'd bring him in.
I was gonna say, I was like, I know they're not. This is technically still cheating because it's on the same caliber, but like they're not world leaders. But like, when you get someone like Jeff Bezos or somebody to be like, hey,
Jeff
bro,
Bezos, okay, so not world leaders, but let's take into consideration their resources. Yeah. Jeff Bezos, Bob Iger. Sure, why not?
Oh my, Bob Iger.
Yeah, let's get Bob Iger in there. Have him bring the mouse and all of his might.
Oh my goodness! All the cast members clock in before you go fight the crate dragon, guys.
It's a point deduction if you don't attend the crate dragon extermination. I don't know.
That's such a funny question, bro. Like, that's where I was sitting there like,
yeah.
Okay.
Out of all of the questions, that's something that I feel like I would be asked or would ask if I were high.
Yeah.
Just like, dude, let's say you got to take out a crate dragon or something, man. Like, who in the real world you taking with you? For me, Michael Bublé. He's got it.
Yeah. Serenade the crate dragon.
Just serenade. Like, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Because it doesn't say kill. It says take down.
Take down?
Yeah.
Sleep counts as taken down.
Yeah. Take a nap, crate dragon.
Man, if what's his name? It was like one of the most famous animal.
Is he deceased? Is it Steve Irwin?
Yes.
Yeah, his son Robert Irwin.
Yeah.
Dude,
imagine that guy just.
That would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Steve Irwin takes on the crate dragon. He could do it. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. He would be like, look at this here beauty, the crate dragon.
Crikey. It's got a big old pearl in it.
It's like, if you find deep in his gullet, has a great, beautiful, great pearl. Can actually be used to replace kyber crystals if you know how to use it, which is actually really cool because that is I don't remember if you did that in KOTOR or not.
Yeah, I understood that reference.
Did I tell you? I'm just gonna say this here. I don't even care. Did I tell you that there was shout out to K-Sith Saber Fonts? He made a crate pearl sound font.
Whoa.
That has like accents of like crate drag, it's not like just straight crate dragon roars. It's like a traditional like lightsaber, but it has crate dragon kind of accents to it of like hints in it, and it sounds awesome, dude. I was like immediate cop. On that note, that's gonna do it for this episode of Mortis FM.
ACOLYTE.
ACOLYTE. Good. Excited for next week. We're gonna try to. I should also make a little housekeeping note. We're gonna try, now that these episodes are coming out on Tuesday nights. We're originally with Bad Batch, with the way my schedule and everything was working, we were kind of going for the weekends. We were going for Sunday, Monday, but obviously I don't want to make you guys wait all the way till Sunday and Monday, because then at that point the next episode will be out.
Yeah.
So tentatively aiming to get these roughly out on Thursdays. This one you probably will be listening to on a Friday. But if I can aim to get it on Thursday, Friday, that's kind of the goal. But if that changes, we will let you know. And I do want to apologize that there was technically no episode this past weekend, but it kind of worked out because of ACOLYTE. We do have something special coming at this point because of the ACOLYTE. It may not come out until after the show wraps. Just to give ourselves a little bit of a week-long break after ACOLYTE. But keep an eye out for that. Cole, where can they follow you?
You can follow me at the.cosmic.drifter on Instagram, and you can find my channel at the Cosmic Drifter on YouTube, where I talk about games intermittently. Yeah.
And you know what? Because it's been, since we weren't on our podcast, why don't you go check out Beyond the Dune Sea's new villain tier list episode? Came out some days ago. Maybe a couple guys you might know if you haven't seen it already. It's worth your time.
There's some really good, thoughtful pitches put into that video. Absolutely.
At least for one of us.
Yeah.
You can follow me
wild
at Schradester8, but you can, more importantly, like, you don't really gotta follow me there. Follow us at Mortis FM on wherever you're at.
Actually, don't follow me there.
It's up to you. I'll be honest. I'm not that active on my personal account because I'm more often on the Mortis account than anything. Obviously, if people know, I run it. So yeah.
You want to see insights into Grayson's personal life? Follow him at Schradester8.
Where I post maybe once every 3 months, if even. Cool. May the Force be with you.
Always.